Okay, what's going on, everybody? Third take here. I keep swearing in the first minute. Welcome back to the channel. I've done some rebranding. We named it Ronin MMA. A, though, spelt EH because I'm Canadian. I made a logo so I could change the profile picture because some guy in my comment section told me that my profile picture was off-putting due to me wearing sunglasses. And I thought it was strange because I wasn't even wearing, like, real, douchey sunglasses because, not like big, goofy ones or anything like that. I was just wearing some shades in my profile picture, but, it is what it is. And it was probably time to make a proper logo anyways. But yeah, so on this channel, and personally, my favorite fighter of all time, if I'm being honest, is Robert Whittaker. There's a few reasons why he's my favorite fighter, which we're going to get into, and then we're also going to try and figure out who he could potentially fight next, because as you all know, his fight with Paulo Costa unfortunately fell out, which would have been on the Perth card, which would have made that thing just, like, out of this world good. But, yeah, before we get started, please subscribe to my channel. I've been making quite a few videos since I started this, working pretty hard, so just do it, just come on, help me out. So just subscribe. Anyways, let's get into it. Now, there's a few reasons why Robert Whittaker is one of my favorite fighters. One of them is because I love video games, and I play a lot of video games, and I think Robert Whittaker has great taste in video games. There's a few fighters that I think of when I think of, like, fighters who are also gamers. One of them is, Mighty Mouse, Max Holloway, and Robert Whittaker. Now, the first two make sense because Max Holloway sounds like he's 12, and Mighty Mouse looks like he's 12. Guys, I'm only 12 years old, guys, and I'm still getting better. Guys, I'm only 28, except he looks 12. And Mighty Mouse, 5'3". And yeah, both of them could kick my ass, but that doesn't mean I can't poke fun at them. And Robert Whittaker, on the other hand, is a big grown man, who is, doesn't look 12, and he doesn't sound 12, and he's got children. And I also have kids, and I appreciate, family dudes. I like young guys who like the thought of having a bunch of kids like he does. I think he's got like 4 now. And unlike a lot of young guys, he doesn't act like it's the end of the world. He's just got a great attitude overall. Like, people might think he's a bit boring because of that. He's just, like, super happy all the time, doesn't like to talk a lot of shit. I don't know, man. He's just, like, one of the coolest dudes to ever fight in the UFC, in my opinion, obviously. I've been a fan of his ever since he left the welterweight division and went on the tear that he did leading up to his title fights with Yoel Romero. Those fights were incredible also, which made me a huge fan. Yeah. But as I said in the beginning, everybody knows his fight with Paulo Costa fell out, and, I don't really blame Paulo Costa. I wouldn't want to fight Robert Whittaker knowing most likely I'm getting half my pay because the dude beats everybody. And, if half your pay is 70 grand, I don't know, man. You see what he did to Kelvin Gastelum and Marvin Vettori, you might think twice before accepting $70,000 to go in there and get your face smashed up by Robert Whittaker, possibly head kicked, and I think he probably could have finished Paulo Costa. We've never really seen Paulo Costa, I was just going to say we've never seen him finish, but that might be the most dumb thing I've ever said in my life because Israel Adesanya finished him, obviously. But, I mean, we saw him take shots against Yoel Romero and be like, okay. So I don't know what was going on in that Izzy fight. I know Izzy's accuracy is, like, on point, but Romero hits like a truck. And, he somehow managed to be okay there. But yeah, if you look at the middleweight rankings, there's honestly like nobody that he could fight. And the reason why I'm doing this video is because I saw an interview recently of his, and I seen the clip on my YouTube feed a few times. I hadn't bothered clicking on it because I thought it was just like clickbait, which it kind of was. It was them asking him about a Khamzat Chimaev fight, and he says, I don't know who they're looking at, and he's like, but I know that they want obviously someone in specific that they're trying to get, because otherwise why wouldn't they have just like thrown somebody like Sean Strickland in last minute type deal. And I feel for Bobby Knuckles, he's trying to get back in there, and it doesn't make sense for him to sit out and wait for a title shot. And if we're being honest, dude, if there's anybody that deserves more to sit out and wait for a title shot, it's Robert Whittaker. Because unlike most champions who just like immediately beg and plead for a immediate rematch after losing their title, he did not do that. He went and got 3 phenomenal wins, and was actually, it was weird, dude. He was like doing what Merab's doing for Aljo for Israel, but for a completely different reason, so that there could be no doubt that I'm the one who you're fighting. And you could see that in interviews, Izzy was getting kind of irritated with it, because I think after the Darren Till fight, he goes, Darren fumbled the bag. And then he said something about Jared. He said the same thing. And I think Eugene Behrman even said the same thing about both of those men. And it's like, well, no. They didn't really fumble the bag. Robert Whittaker fucking took it from them, okay? And then he fights Kelvin Gastelum, who he was set to fight long ago, and shows us that that fight, was a mismatch. I mean, he beat the brakes off him, pillar to post, 5 rounds. And if Kelvin's got a massive head, big thick neck, and apparently the most staph infection out of anybody, and he still couldn't fucking finish. Like, of course he's not finishing the dude with that big of a head, but he beat the shit out of him for 5 rounds, and then left no doubt. And in the rematch against Adesanya, dude, I thought he won it. And yeah, I'm probably a little biased because I am a massive Robert Whittaker fan. And while I don't always agree with the Weasel's conclusions in his Who Really Won videos, I did agree with that one. And I thought it was more clear than a lot of people thought. I think that the way that he breaks the rounds down, slows down every exchange, and shows you how hard something actually landed, or whether or not it even did land, or if it landed arms or whatever. I thought it was pretty clear. Robert Whittaker won 3 rounds, 2, 4, and 5. And, yeah. Unfortunately, we don't, I have no idea who he's going to fight now. Because of that, I pulled up the middleweight rankings this morning, and I could not figure it out. And I guess that if somebody deserves a chance to fight up in the rankings, it could be Sean Strickland, because he does company man shit. But he did just fight twice in 2 months, and I don't know that he's going to be ready for Robert Whittaker in March or April, because that would probably be one that you'd want to train and game plan for. Right, if we take a look at the top 5 here, we've got Alex Pereira as the champion, who is somebody that I actually think Robert Whittaker could beat. I think he's got a better chance of beating Alex Pereira than Izzy does, if I'm being honest. Just because, styles make fights and all that. But number 1, we've got Izzy. 2, we've got Bobby Knuckles. 3, Jared Cannonier, whom he's beat. 4, Marvin Vettori, who he's beat. Both convincingly and handedly. No argument for a rematch, really. I know Jared Cannonier hurt him in the 3rd round, but jeez, he hurt Jared Cannonier that whole fight, broke his arm from Jared having to block his head kicks, rocked him with a head kick, almost finished him at one point. And we got Marvin Vettori, who again he beat the brakes off of, and at the end of that fight, dude, Marvin Vettori looked over at Jason Herzog and went, damn, he's good, dude. And then we've got Derek Brunson at 5, who he obviously KO'd on his run-up the first time. I don't see an argument for a rematch there, though I guess they could do it. Paulo Costa was sitting at 6, which is crazy to think about because the only reason he's fighting someone ranked 6 is because he's beaten everybody in the top 5 except for Izzy. And then Sean Strickland's at 7. And then at that point, man, does it really make sense to give Sean Strickland number 2 when he's ranked number 7 and he's on a what should be a 2-fight win streak, but he just won 1 against a guy who was much lower ranked than either of these gentlemen. I don't think Dricus du Plessis deserves that, especially because, bro, that second round against, first of all, he had to take Darren Till down to make that fight as dominant as it was. Robert Whittaker has some of the best takedown defense in the UFC. He might actually have the best takedown defense in the UFC. And if we're not talking about guys like Usman, I don't give a shit. Like, when they would spout off that statistic that Usman had 100% takedown defense, how many guys had honestly shot on him up until Colby Covington? You know what I mean? But now you're in the 10s. Maybe Roman Dolidze, just because he's fresh blood, they could give him somebody like that, or again Dricus du Plessis, so that they could eventually do like an African event. But now we're like outside of the top 12, and we need guys like Chris Curtis to get another high-ranked win before we give him someone like a Robert Whittaker. Nassourdine Imavov kind of just got exposed. That fight went exactly how I said it would, by the way. I don't have a lot of subscribers, so I'm not going to get the credit that I deserve, but I called that shit to a T. And I said that he was not as impressive as he appeared. It's easy to look good against Joaquin Buckley because we see what guys like Kevin Holland are able to do to Joaquin Buckley. And then you see what guys that are a little bit more technical, like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, can do to Kevin Holland. It's just like, there's levels. I honestly don't know who they're going to give him. The question that he keeps getting asked, though, is, are you going to fight Khamzat? Dude, Khamzat's already said he didn't want that fight, which is incredible. Because Khamzat says, I come for everybody, I kill everybody. Like, all that shit. And then they asked him about Robert Whittaker. He goes, I don't want to fight this guy. This guy, like, I can't even do Khamzat's, because I don't know if anybody's noticed this, dude. He started to develop a Liverpool accent behind his Russian accent. It's fucked up. Like, Darren Till's wearing off on him. But, brother, I come for everybody. I kill everybody. And then he says, I don't want to fight a guy who's a family man, and then proceeds to have a fucking 3-round war with a guy like Gilbert Burns, who's got multiple kids and is a nice family man. I don't think it has anything to do with family man shit, right? He also wanted to smash Usman. He wanted to smash all the guys. A lot of these guys got kids, man. So that family man excuse don't make a whole lot of sense. I think that's cope. He goes, like, Robert Whittaker, again, best takedown defense. Like, maybe of all time, dude. The scrambles that he had against Yoel Romero were absolutely insane. And the balance that he showed and just everything, dude. It was incredible. Incredible. Especially in their first fight, because Yoel Romero shot a lot of takedowns in the first fight, not so many in the second. I think Robert Whittaker smacks Khamzat around, like, easy. And I think he's, like, quite possibly the worst matchup for him. Also, dude, I know that people get choked when we're talking about deserving shit. Yeah, I get it. Like, it's based on fame and hype and all that jazz, but Khamzat Chimaev does not deserve a shot against Robert Whittaker. And Robert Whittaker doesn't deserve that risk because he's been steady beating all these contenders. This video is kind of more just like a Robert Whittaker appreciation video, dude. The guy is a straight up fucking G. And I loved what he said. Now, up until Pereira comes and finishes Adesanya, what he said was totally true. I am the most dangerous guy in the division. And I think what he meant behind that is I'm beating the contenders that the champion has beat, but I'm beating them way worse. Like, I am fucking them up. Whereas Israel Adesanya, is just point fighting him, leg kicking just enough to get the nod. And he's right, man. He did. Like, Jared Cannonier and Izzy, boring as shit. Robert Whittaker fucking beat his ass. Marvin Vettori and Adesanya, their fight was a bit better than the Cannonier one, but it was not great. And Adesanya did not do that good. Like, it was a lackluster performance. Clearly won, right? Marvin Vettori's fucking delusional, but that's because he's a Urukai, right? One of those nasty looking orcs that came out of the fucking... They get born from the mud or whatever. You know? And then who else, too? I can't think. But he's beaten them way worse. Calvin Gastelum almost finished Izzy at one point. He head kicked him. You know what I mean? Robert Whittaker did fucking... That performance was basically flawless. I have no idea who they're going to match him up against, but if I had to pick somebody, based on the fact that he's already beaten everybody in the top 5, they're probably going to do the Izzy Pereira rematch. And he would end up waiting like 9 months to get a shot at that title if he did wait. And if they didn't end up doing a trilogy. Which then it would be even longer. Like probably a year to a year and a half of waiting, which he can't do. That's just not reasonable. If I had to pick someone the most deserving, it would be Sean Strickland. And there's a couple reasons for that, but they haven't fought each other yet, so it's a fresh matchup. And Sean Strickland just fought twice in 2 months against a dude. First of all, he took it on like less than a week's notice. And second of all, it was a guy that a lot of dudes were saying no to, and he went in there and he exposed him and beat the brakes off him. It was a clear victory. Like, anybody that had that Firimov is just guzzling fucking Dagestani dick, you know what I mean? So, that's probably the fight I would make, although the shitty thing is, dude, is their schedules don't really line up. Because Strickland just fought, and Whittaker's looking to fight soon, March or April, he said. He said that the UFC still hasn't given him a concrete date, and he finds it quite frustrating, because he would like to be able to base his training camp around it. And, yeah. Now, I know this video probably wasn't the most entertaining, but I don't know what the fuck to talk about, dude. The year's starting off a little slow. We need the first pay-per-view to happen so that we've got there will be a lot of content there that can be made. But you can only talk about Sean Strickland so many times after his performance, before people get bored. And I've been looking every day for newsworthy enough shit, but I couldn't find any. So I figured I'd talk about my guy, Bobby Knuckles. And anyways, that's enough here. Subscribe, please, you fucks. Ronin MMA, dude. Because I'm Canadian. So subscribe. Just do it. Please. Just do it, eh? See ya.